Most thought the nightmare ended, but they were wrong. The darkness that plagued Briarwood wasn't buried with the conviction. It was only just beginning. The infamous doctor, Dr. Leonard Hale, once a respected figure in medicine, now spent his days in a maximum security prison with no chance of parole. The hospital where he carried out his twisted experiments shut down shortly after, its halls abandoned to dust and silence. But the silence did not mean peace. Briarwood tried to heal, families mourned, courts declared justice, and the town wanted to move on. But there was Maya Cortez. Could she move on? She had lived through the horror. She had seen Hale's face in the shadows of the ward, syringe in hand, eyes void of humanity. Years later, her nightmares still played in vivid details, every scream and every silence haunting her. Therapy couldn't erase it, time couldn't dull it. And when whispers spread of new patient deaths in nearby counties, Maya's instincts screamed, it wasn't over. At first, it was nothing more than whispers, rumors of missing files from the hospital archives, questions about patient records that had mysteriously disappeared just before the building was sealed. Nurses who had worked under Hale claimed that the entire cabinets had been emptied overnight. Some dismissed it as sloppy paperwork during the chaos of the shutdown. But others believed it was deliberate. Then came the deaths. Across neighboring counties, patients began to die in ways disturbingly similar to Hale's victims. Sudden respiratory failure, cardiac arrests labeled as complications. The symptoms matched too closely to be ignored. Families who lost loved ones demanded answers, but hospitals denied any wrongdoing. To the public, these were tragedies of illness and age. To those who had lived through the horror of Briarwood, it felt like a déjà vu. Maya's suspicions reignited. She began to dig by retracing her old memories of the hospital. She remembered the patients who had disappeared from records, the strange shipments of drugs that never matched the hospital's inventory. And as she pieced together the fragments, a chilling realization took shape. Dr. Hale had not been acting alone. The scale of the operation had been too large, too organized. Someone else had provided cover. Someone else had moved the money. And someone else had benefited. Maya followed the paper trail. Shell companies. Ghost clinics. Funding that seemed to come from nowhere and vanish into overseas accounts. And in her search, she stumbled upon something even more disturbing. Research files, coded and hidden, that suggested Briarwood was only one part of a much larger experiment. These files referenced a figure known only as the Benefactor. The Benefactor was never named directly. Instead, there were symbols, initials, and instructions. But every path Maya traced pointed back to the same conclusion. Hale had been a pawn. A willing pawn, yes, but still only a piece of a much broader network. And Eleanor Briggs? Though Briggs faced charges, she struck a plea deal, escaping a heavy sentence. Soon after, she vanished from public view, fueling speculation that she was silenced or protected. She wasn't a bystander, nor a simple accomplice. She had been moving the strings long before Hale's arrest. The shock came when Maya uncovered proof that Briggs had never really disappeared. She had re-emerged quietly under a new identity, taking charge of a medical research foundation overseas. Publicly, the foundation claimed to specialize in experimental treatments for rare diseases. Privately, the files told a far darker story. Patients who enrolled in trials were never heard from again. Families who asked too many questions were silenced with settlements, gag orders, and threats. The horror was no longer confined to the past. It was alive. It was ongoing. And it was spreading. The true weight of what she had uncovered left her breathless, but she needed more sustainable amount of information. So she returned to the trail, this time at the precinct. Case files from Hale's trial were incomplete, sections missing, references to journals never included in the evidence. It gnawed at her. Maya recalled seeing those journals on the night Hale was arrested. Leather-bound, filled with his handwriting, they had been stacked in boxes ready to be taken as evidence. How could they just vanish? She began by filing public records requests, cross-checking inventory lists from the precinct. The documents she received back were futile, riddled with redactions. But one detail stood out. A note logged the presence of an intern support staff during the evidence intake. Daniel Mercer, a name she didn't recognize. There should have been no interns handling sensitive material that night, she said. At first, Daniel's role looked harmless, a trainee assigned to help with paperwork. But the longer Maya looked, the stranger it became. He appeared in no other precinct records before or after Hale's arrest. His internship was a ghost appointment, filed under special recommendation. Someone powerful had put him there. Maya dug deeper, searching local registries, even scouring old social media traces. Slowly a picture emerged. Daniel Mercer was not some ordinary intern. He was the son of Dr. William Mercer, a highly respected head physician in another county. A man with long-standing ties to Eleanor Briggs and the Benefactor network. It was too neat to be coincidence. Maya knew she needed proof. She managed to gain access to an old precinct storage log through a sympathetic clerk who remembered her role in exposing Hale. The log confirmed it. Daniel Mercer had signed into the evidence room on the very night Hale was booked. His signature scrawled next to the line for Hale's journals. But there was no signature signing them out. The boxes were never recorded as leaving. The evidence had been stolen under official eyes. But Maya wasn't done. Her true break came when she tracked down an aging officer who had worked the Hale case. He recalled the intern vividly, not because of his work, but because he had been nervous, pale, and sweating profusely when asked to carry boxes out of the room. The officer had assumed it was just a rookie overwhelmed by the gruesome evidence. In hindsight, it looked very different. Piece by piece, Maya laid the puzzle out. Hale's missing journals. An intern who shouldn't have been there. A father with powerful medical ties. Eleanor Briggs vanishing with funding for a new research foundation. And then, chillingly, Maya stumbled across something that made her blood run cold. One of Hale's coded letters, smuggled out of prison, made reference to our young apprentice, Daniel. Hale had been mentoring him even before the arrest. Teaching him. Grooming him to carry forward the work. The realization broke Maya. Hale hadn't been a lone monster. He had been part of a lineage, and Daniel Mercer was its next chapter. But here's the twist. When Maya tried to share her findings with authorities, she hit a wall. Files she submitted disappeared. Her emails bounced back. Calls went unanswered. And then she received a letter. No signature, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed in cold black ink. You're looking in the wrong place, Maya. The Benefactor protects its own. You know what happens to those who don't stop digging. The letter ended with something worse. A photograph. Taken recently. Of Maya herself, outside her apartment, clutching her files. She hadn't even realized someone was watching. For Maya, the message was clear. She was now marked. But fear didn't stop her. It hardened her resolve. She knew the truth about Daniel Mercer, and she knew the Benefactor had spread too far to ignore. Yet as she stared at the photograph, one final thought chilled her to her bones. If they're already watching me, then Daniel isn't in the shadows anymore. He's closer than I think. The horror of Briarwood didn't end with Dr. Hale. It was inherited. Stolen journals, a father's manipulation, and a son's chilling apprenticeship ensured the nightmare lived on. The question now isn't whether it will happen again, but how many victims have already been claimed before anyone dared to see the truth? Will Maya survive to tell the tale?